Eat like a king who's on a budget. 3 tasty options, fries, drink, and nuggets. All for $5. Wait, that can't be right. Just confirm that that's the real price. BK, have it your way.
Welcome into Leather Brains. Your host, Slapdog here. And boy, oh boy, do we have a fun-filled episode for everybody. NFL Week 15 has finally come almost to the conclusion. We still have one more game, which we will discuss at the end of the show. But before we get to the end of the show, we have all of NFL Week 15 to discuss with all you dirty old nasty brainiacs. I am not alone. I am joined today by my very good friend, Alan Casanova Castro. Alan, you ready to do this thing?
Let's get it, baby.
Okay, let's just jump right in. But excuse me, before we jump in, we have to, look, somebody has to keep these lights on.
Pay the bills.
It is Burger King, baby. So today's show is brought to you by Burger King, home of the Whopper and the undisputed king of late night decisions. Whether your team just blew a fourth quarter lead, your fantasy season is hanging by a thread, or you're just here for the chaos, Burger King has got you covered, baby. Flame grilled Whoppers, crispy fries, and enough options to make even the most indecisive GM feel confident. No gimmicks, no tricks, just real food done the right way. So the next time your hunger hits harder than a blindside sack, you know where to go. Burger King. Have it your way. Go check out Burger King. Huge sponsor of ours. We genuinely appreciate the support. And let's jump in with, probably some of the biggest news of the week, Alan. There is a lot of news to discuss this week, of course, but it's Kyle Pitts no matter what. And I'm so sad Scotty's not here with us today. He is still juggling being a father. But this would be a ripe episode for him to be here because he finally, in year 5, had his breakout game. And Scotty, we were talking with Scotty this weekend, and he was just giddy with excitement because he's been a Kyle Pitts truther this whole time. That was a tongue twister.
Yeah, it was tough.
It was a little tough. So I imagine. Kyle Pitts. He went 11 for 162 and 3 touchdowns. This was legitimately a historical performance. Kyle Pitts had the best performance of a tight end ever in the modern stat era. Crazy time to be alive. Kyle Pitts has been a non-factor for the Falcons for a couple years. He's been somewhat relevant, but most of the time not, and has been just a foregone conclusion that he was fading away into nothingness, and then he does something like this, and he probably won a lot of people their fantasy games this week, I would imagine.
Or
crushed people.
Or crushed people because they were on your bench, or they were on your bench, and you're like, mother.
Yeah. Which sucks because it's playoffs for fantasy football, as we all know, and we are very plugged into. He hurt me in a couple leagues, and he brought me some joy in a couple leagues. I don't own any shares of him, but I got to watch him slaughter some people from the sideline, and that was pretty fun. So, Falcons, they didn't end up winning this game. Go ahead, Alan. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. My shit's probably fucking up again. It's okay. I was just going to say, if we were forward thinking, we should have a montage of all of Scotty's Kyle Pitts takes.
I know.
That we rolled out.
I know. Because he's been a no matter what guy this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons did win this game 29-28 against the Buccaneers. Falcons, they ended up winning this game after a crucial 4th and 14 in the final minutes to set up a game-winning field goal for them. But there's not a lot to unpack this game. The thing that as far as the Falcons side of the ball, but really where I want to spend a couple minutes of our time here is on this Buccaneers team, because the Bucs are incredibly lucky that the Saints ended up beating the Panthers, because otherwise the Panthers would be leading this division, which I don't think any of us had seen coming. Are you hitting the alarm button on the Bucs at this point?
I think it's been that way, right? And again, apologies to anybody listening if I'm choppy. I have more technical difficulties. Not my internet, we know that. But I think the major concern you have is just still with Baker Mayfield and this offense. It just doesn't look great. And they were really cooking with grease at the beginning of the season with late drive heroics, and they're not quite getting that right now. And yes, they had some pieces come back. I think Evans is a welcomed addition. I think this should prove nice towards the end of these last 3 games. But to me, if you're a Bucs fan at the beginning of the season, you're like, no issues. We're going to win this division and have a comfy seat in the playoffs. And now you're like, might not win the division.
You might
not have a seat in the playoffs. So this is going to be like white knuckling these last 3 games.
Do you think that, and we haven't touched on the Saints-Panthers game just yet, and I don't want to show our hand, but while we're talking, I mean, these are all interdivisional. This division is very,
Right.
very close. Are you concerned with the Bucs? Like, is there a legitimate chance that they're not going to make the playoffs here in your mind?
I still trust them. I still like that defense. I think they'll figure it out. I think, like I said, I think Evans getting back in the fold will help as well. They just need to focus on keeping Baker healthy. And, obviously the running back situation's kind of been a revolving door with injuries, guys up and down. They have options there. They just need to get consistent with a few things. I'm still going to ride with the Bucs winning this division, but it's going to be a lot closer than we thought maybe 5-6 weeks ago for sure.
Yeah. Let's pivot over. We're a Bears podcast this year, baby.
Yeah,
Bear down. We got another victory. Bears win this one 31-3 against the Browns. Shedeur Sanders, man, had 3 interceptions. Not a good look for him. And I don't think anybody's surprised that the Bears won this game, but I am kind of surprised that it was by the point deficit that it was. Because I kind of expected the Browns defense, which is really the heart and soul of this Browns team, to put a little bit more pressure on Caleb Williams. I don't even think they recorded a sack, which was quite unusual for Myles Garrett at this point in the season for him. But the Bears get it done, and the Bears are currently leading the NFC South. So
yeah, a couple quick stat corrections. I think Garrett had a sack and a half. It looks like they sacked Williams about 3 times total, is what the official stat sheet is saying, but it was inconsequential. Yeah, right. It was mainly Caleb Williams, if you're a Bears fan like we are, this is the game you wanted to see, where he is really efficient throwing the ball. No interceptions, couple touchdowns, and then you cap it off with Swift almost 100 yards rushing with another couple touchdowns. I'm in the same boat. Obviously, we know what the Browns' offense is, which is not spectacular, but I expected Shedeur to have a little bit more success than the zero amount of success that he had this game. But then it really was the Bears' ability to move against this Browns offense. I thought that was it was a very important win, and also important win because it knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs, regardless of whatever their game was. So out
there was a lot of playoff in this week, and I think that's going to be a common theme that people see throughout this entire episode. Is there were a lot of playoff with injuries and everything else, and who wins and loses, and that's a fun part time of year is you get to kind of start mapping things out and figuring out who's getting in, who's frisky. And so a team who is firmly out is the Bengals. They put a stinker against the Ravens, a goose egg. So it's 24-0 Bengals Ravens.
Bad.
With wind chill outside, it was reported to be -1. So it time to be playing football, but the Bengals were missing T. Higgins, but it's not something I had expected. I mean, this Ravens team has been somewhat depleted a lot of the season, on both sides of the ball at different facets of this season, and I don't know. I was expecting more from the Bengals, and I didn't really see it. Offense, good game, and anybody who started Joey B for fantasy was incredibly disappointed by this performance, to say the least.
Yeah, this is one of those where you're like, you see Lamar, you pull up the stat sheet and you're like, Lamar Jackson threw it 12 times. That was it. That's all he had to do.
Yeah.
And they won. Yeah. They had a pick 6. That pick 6 was probably the play of the week, in my opinion. That was it. But yeah. Definitely stinker for the Bengals offense. They didn't do shit. I was really disappointed in the Bengals. I picked them in our friends parlay. I really thought the Bengals were going to win this one. I thought they should have won last week against the Bills. I thought for sure they were going to beat the Ravens. But to see them score absolutely 0 points at home is kind of a shocker to me. That is, I don't know how you do that, but they did.
I don't either. And on the flip side of this, are the Ravens back in your mind? I mean, they're outside of the picture. They're outside of the picture.
They're just there. I don't know what they are.
They're at the 9th seed currently, and the next 3 games are Patriots, Packers, and Steelers. So do you think that the Ravens are going to make the playoffs this year? They have currently, after winning this game, they have a 48% chance to get into the playoffs. Looking at these 3 games, do you think the Ravens are going to get in or out?
No, my vote's out. Patriots and Packers are all playing for stuff right now. The Parsons injury, which we'll get into, is also going to play into the Packers' emphasis. I think there's something that happens when you lose a major player like that. Everybody else has to step up. So everybody's going to be bringing their best. You're not getting anybody's, C game at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have the players, which the Cardinals don't. And the Texans beat the Cardinals 40-20. It sucks talking about the Cardinals. I'm a Cardinals fan, and it sucks talking about the Cardinals because I've said this before. Fire everyone. Fire every single person. Like this is, so often on the show I bitch about how shitty our offense looks for very good reason. But what I haven't really harped on is how shitty our entire coaching staff is. I don't know if people know this. Jonathan Gannon, he used to be the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. He is now the head coach for the Cardinals. He was the defensive mind for the Eagles. Yet we give up 27.7 points per game on average. That ranks us at 27 out of 32 in the NFL rankings. We give up arguably one of the worst point deficits in all of the NFL with a defensive-minded head coach.
Yeah.
Not only that, we're also among one of the highest teams in the league in penalties. We're undisciplined. We can't close out games. Fire everyone. I'm so that's where I'm at with this Cardinals team. On offense, we're ranked 22nd in scoring. It puts us in the bottom third of the league. Fire this entire coaching staff, and I have a solution. Go get Robert Saleh. I'd be fine with Robert Saleh. I think he was done dirty by the Jets. Right. I think because the Jets are the Jets and they're not a good organization, he did the best that he could. Go get Robert Saleh. And I understand he's the 49ers defensive coordinator. That's interdivisional. Ben Johnson did it with the Lions. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but here's the situation that the Cardinals are going to find themselves in, or we are finding ourselves in. We're going to have probably a top 5 pick. Like that's just kind of where we're at. We're moving on from Kyler Murray. So, and I think most NFL fans can agree that Kyler Murray will not be repping a Cardinals jersey next year. That kind of seems like the sentiment. And I'm for that, by the way. If we have a top 5 pick, don't go get a quarterback. Go get it. It's not sexy. Go beef up the O-line. But in the event that you're even remotely interested, John Gruden is out there. Yeti says, I'll take John Gruden. I'll take anything.
Might as well.
I mean, what do I have to lose? I like John Gruden.
I like the Salah play. I like anybody at this point for you guys. Honestly, the biggest problem for me for the Cardinals is the Texans. Their O-line isn't great. They've given up a ton of sacks, yet in this game you put zero pressure on CJ Stroud. You recorded 1 sack, and it was kind of like
that's embarrassing.
That's bad. Like your inability. You'll see that. I mean, and this is pretty true. This rings out with a lot of NFL teams. Your inability to either protect the quarterback or pressure the quarterback will be your downfall forever. And so for the Cardinals, on defense, your inability to provide any pressure, that just puts so much stress on your secondary, which if your secondary isn't great, now they're stressed out and now you're giving up. So it's just, it compounds itself. So to me, I'm cool with Salah. I think I'm still not sold on the firing, but I get it. I think the biggest thing that the Cardinals need to fix is that D-line. They got to figure out a way to generate pressure in that division.
Which we've drafted a couple D-line with first-round picks in the past couple of years, and it just hasn't worked. And it's get these guys out of here. And that's what I want to happen. I do want them to fire the coaching staff and bring in a new regime, but I want them to do it at the end of the season before it comes time to actually spend our draft capital. Let the new people pick their coach or their picks.
Yeah.
Yeti asked a question here. He says, "Who gets fired first, Gannon, Taylor, or Morris?" I think it should still be Morris.
Probably more. Yeah, that makes sense out of that group.
Yeah, I think Morris.
They could go out the same day.
They could, and then we would. I guess
it's just what time they got fired then.
Yeah, we'd have to go look at the timestamps. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that's all I had on the Cardinals. That's kind of where I'm at. The season's over. I think we all, as a Cardinals fan, I know that it's very obvious, but now it's what are we doing with the future? And honestly, the future doesn't feel very bright either. So I'm kind of, it's a bad place to be, and it feels like purgatory is where I'm at. So, but Trevor Lawrence for MVP, Allen. I mean, look, the Jags beat the living piss out of the Jets. It was 48-20, and I have been on record on this show for a long time. Yeah, I do not like him. Sarah Jessica Parker needs to cut his hair. He's a shitty quarterback. He's not good. It's hard to argue that when you look at the statistics here. He went 371 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he also had 3 rushing touchdowns. And I preface that by stating all of the good things. I want to remind everybody, because we have people who work for Leatherbrains who are Trevor Lawrence supporters, and they were giving me some shit, and they're like, he's playing incredible. I want to remind everybody, this is the Jets. This is the Jets defense. It's the Jets. Also, I got to give a shout out to Travis Etienne because he was eating too. But it's the Jets, man. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
What do you expect? The Jets are the worst team. Like, I pick out of a hat between the Jets, the Raiders, and the Cardinals for who's the worst team in the NFL. And honestly, there's a valid argument for all of them. The Jets are right there. They are a terrible team offensively. They don't have a quarterback. And honestly, that's my biggest concern is, look, I think that Trevor Lawrence played a good game. You can't say he didn't. He had some great looking throws. This offense is still concerning to me. So the Jags are currently sitting at the 3 seed in the AFC. And this feels like a very fraudulent team to me. Do you agree with that, Alan, or would you rebuke that? Because I think the Jaguars are fraudulent, but it's hard to argue that when you look at the record and the fact that they're winning games.
But I mean, you could do that with the majority of these AFC teams right now. You could look at them and just be like, I don't agree. That feels weird. Why? You got the Bills in 6. I just have the standings up. That's why I'm looking out here to the left. Shout out the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 4 seed at 7-6.
It's Mike Tomlin, man. He's a wizard.
He's built a legacy off of like 9 wins in that division. I agree with you. I think the Jaguars, any good defense is just going to choke this team out. That's it. That's basically that's basically what it comes down to. If you put them against the Broncos, which I think they play this week, Broncos Jags play coming up. I think that's the next game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Lawrence throws like 3 picks and 100 yards and sucks, because like any good defense is going to choke this team out. And we've seen it this year, and we've seen it over time. I don't trust the Jaguars, but I don't trust many teams in the AFC. So it's just kind of like somebody's going to win this. Somebody
has to win it.
Somebody in the final 4 of, we talk about conference title Sunday. You're going to have quarterbacks. You're like, what? This guy's here. And it's happened in the past, and it feels like this year. Honestly, what I circle back to, and we haven't talked about this game, is just this feels ripe for a Josh Allen Super Bowl.
I agree, and put a
feels
bookmark
right.
on that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That feels right. The way this is shaping up is there's no Mahomes, there's no Burrow, there's nobody that really terrifies you on the other side as a quarterback that could like lead a comeback like they're doing, and this team is doing that. But I guess when you look at the Jaguars, I don't get that same sense. I'm like, you're just getting. Somebody's going to knock you out at some point. We're just waiting for it to happen.
It is also worth noting the Jaguars had one of the easier schedules in the NFL going into the season. They were ranked 10th overall for easiest schedule. So I do think this team is very fraudulent. But I also want to tip my hat to Liam Cohen, because it genuinely is hard to argue with what he's done with this team this season. And I don't know how they're doing it.
So what you're saying is this is more Liam Cohen than this is Trevor Lawrence.
I think so.
If you were to give where does this success come from? I agree. I think he's putting the team in the right plays and putting them in the right spots to be very, very successful, which is what you want out of a coach, right?
Yes.
And regardless of your feelings of Trevor Lawrence or not, like he is doing it, but I guess we also kind of agree that like if some of these things get taken away, we don't trust Trevor Lawrence to undo or to like create magic out of nothing. Like the script has to be flowing correctly for him to win, and I think that's what we're gonna see out of this Jaguars team. But that being said, man, they're 10-4. Like that's
I know, and it's hard to argue with that. But for me, and they're gonna go to the playoffs. It's gonna happen.
But I would not on Sunday, by the way.
And I'm really interested to see how that game plays out, because for me, what I have not seen from Trevor Lawrence this season is consistency. That's the big problem, is he'll come out and look like he's a gunslinging machine and be able to like throw some incredible balls, make some good reads against teams like the Jets. But when you actually get him in games like what we're going to see with the Broncos here, I just haven't seen it. And it's not just him. It's really this entire offense. Brian Thomas Jr. has not been relevant for this team. He's like, sometimes he'll have some great plays, but he's not looking like he did at the second half of last season. And there's arguments, well, Mac Jones is the savior of him or what have you. They don't have Travis Hunter, who they have a lot of investment in. They went and got Jacoby Meyer, which was great. But like, this team doesn't scare me if I'm staring at the roster. Like, it doesn't.
No.
And that's the problem that we're seeing with this Jaguars team is, if Trevor Lawrence was playing at an MVP caliber level and like the consistency was there, I might change my opinion. But really, it's been very hit or miss for him this entire season, and that's why I think that they're a fraudulent team who's just finding ways to win, which you don't apologize for.
Yeah, the shocking outcome next weekend would be they beat the Broncos in Denver.
That would shock the hell out of me.
That's what's shocking, because if they beat the Broncos in Denver next week, what also comes into question, not only the 1 seed for the Broncos, but is the division. Because if the Chargers keep winning, the Chargers still get to play the Broncos. If the Broncos drop another one, now the Broncos could be out the 1 seed and the division in a matter of like a handful of weeks. And so you're also getting the best out of the Broncos now for the Jaguars. That's why this is also interesting. It's not like they're just cruising by as the 1 seed. Like, they're still in the thick of it. And so for the Jaguars, this will be really interesting. I'll be interested to see how motivated they look.
Yeah, and to put a bow on this, like, I also don't want to underscore that they let the Jets put up 20 points on them. And I get it. I mean, it was they blew them out 48-20, but you let the Jets put up 20 points on you, and that also is kind of concerning. The Jets have had a quarterback carousel. The Jets are playing, for all intents and purposes, they're playing with like a high school group. It's like Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie and all these guys that they just got as like ancillary pieces and trades. So that also is kind of like, how'd you let the Jets put up 20 on you? Like,
I mean, it was 31-10 at half, so I don't even know how interested the defense was in the second half. You didn't have to do a ton. You didn't have to do a ton. I would say that 31-10 is a final. If you look at it that way, you're like, oh, damn.
Sure.
But the 20 does kind of shock you giving up that much, but I think that was just more. It was
just like game over.
Why?
The day's over.
Why?
Yeah.
You're kind of prepping already for Denver, probably on the sideline. They're probably looking at their tablets, like looking at Denver rather than actually looking at the Jets game is probably how that plays out in my mind.
Probably. I'm going to let you talk about this one, but complete sadness. The Chargers beat the Chiefs 16-13, and really the storyline in this game and really across NFL media is Patrick Mahomes. So take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Chiefs hater, you're excited because you don't get to see the Chiefs in the postseason, which this is the first time since 1998 that you will not. Since 1998, I don't want to underscore that. Some of you maybe not even born by the time that stat came out. This is the first time since 1998 that you're not going to see Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And so this is definitely like a uncharted territory for the AFC. I'll be interested to see which team comes out of it. But out of this game, it's trending. It was trending this way for a while. The Chiefs were not out of it. They still had an outside chance to sneak in. The Colts were on a free fall. Mahomes was, leading a drive at the end of the game, either tie it or win it. So as much as there's fan fodder of they were already out, this was already out, and then he got hurt. This is very much, there were still opportunities for this team to win. And then obviously at the end, Minshew throwing the pick. I think if you're going to look at this game specifically, and then we'll talk about the broader, to me, this game was like a game nobody wanted to win. Everybody kept just doing shit to like throw the ball away, or I don't want it, or you want it, or you can kick a field goal, or I'll kick a field goal, or how do we want to play this? Super cold day in Kansas City as well, much like we talked about the Bengals and Ravens. It was freezing. It was below freezing with the wind chill. But sad, Mahomes goes down. But this was, I had actually texted a group, and I can screenshot it and send it to you guys. But I had texted a friends group before the game even started, and I said, this O-line is making one Mahomes injury away from this being all for naught. And then that was like in the first quarter, and then lo and behold, in the fourth quarter, it came to fruition. But
yeah,
Mahomes had been dealing with a knee injury for 2 weeks because of this offensive line. So if you're going to circle anything on like what was the Chiefs' downfall, we talked about it earlier with the Cardinals, and without their ability to generate pressure with their defensive line, huge problem. And the second piece, and the most important piece, is the O-line. They were down damn near 5 players now going into this game. They're starting their third string tackle, who they just called up from the practice squad to try to protect Mahomes in this game. And then you net that all out, and you're like, well, he messed up his knee on a scramble. Like, no shit. Like, this was bound to happen. When
Mahomes O-line is your leading rusher,
yeah,
for the Chiefs this entire season, that to me that's a problem.
Yeah. Not great. I mean, we talked about this all year. This Chiefs team kind of did this. I know the dirt will get thrown on the Chiefs saying this was a lost season, but there was a point in this season when they had beaten the Ravens, they had beaten the Lions. They were stumbling. They were trying to get some players healthy, had beaten the Colts. There was opportunities for this team to still continue to rise, and they just couldn't get healthy. To me, that is like the biggest problem is your O-line. It does not matter who you have at wide receiver. It does not matter who you have at quarterback. If you cannot protect your quarterback and you cannot run the ball, you cannot win in this league. And this is exactly what happened to the Chiefs this year. It was trending this way for many seasons, and I hope this is something that the Chiefs figure out as a Chiefs fan, that they will get this line put together. But that's the end of it. And it cost your quarterback his ACL. And reports are now out that it wasn't as catastrophic as some ACL tears, that there is, a hope. So, but he's not going to go through OTAs. Obviously, they're going to get a better draft pick than they have gotten in the last 9 years because they're not having to pick from the very end. So there's opportunities here, but it definitely sucks that everything kind of came to a screeching halt with that injury.
Well, and that's where I want to kind of look at the spin zone at this season. I'm going to be honest. I didn't think the Chiefs were going to go to the playoffs weeks ago when they were still in contention. Just looking at the team and looking at what was transpiring, and I was like, I just don't think it's going to happen for the Chiefs. Now it's officially not going to happen, and we're going to get to see our beloved Gardner Minshew come out and sling the ball for the next few weeks, and then it's going to be a season. But you mentioned the draft picks, and that's something that gets really interesting because the Chiefs will potentially have a top 12 pick. We'll kind of see how things shake out, but that's in the cards. And with a top 12 pick, let's just say it's number 10. Like, what would you like to see the Chiefs do with that? Would you like to see them beef up the O-line? Jeremiah Love gets kind of interesting because you need running back help.
Yeah.
Your tight end's not getting any younger. So, like, where do you want to see them invest this first round pick?
But this is going to be a throwaway. Best available. I don't really care. D-line, O-line, play like a weapon on the outside. The team's going to have to get younger. They have a lot of cap issues too. Obviously, we think, Kelsey with his wedding coming up, that this was his last hurrah anyways. I think they do something like a trade for Chris Jones, like get him off the books. I think they're going to see a lot of turnover of like getting rid of older guys that were kind of holding on for like the last hurrah. And I mean, honestly, it's a testament because this team isn't vastly different than the other two that won back-to-back Super Bowls. It was just the O-line was healthy enough to kind of keep things going, but it's a multitude of issues. And I think honestly, just take best available. That's always my like NFL thing. Like, I don't know why people complicate this. Like, just take the best available guy and you will figure it out. Like, I get that you have holes and needs, but honestly, for me, it's like, there's a weapon, take it. If there's O lineman, take it. If it's a D lineman, take it. I think kind of the world's their oyster. I don't think they have to pigeonhole themselves into one. And I think
but they could
attractive.
Potentially move back in the draft and get more capital if that was something. that could be in the cards too.
Yeah,
so
definite option.
I didn't know the Jeremiah Love one for me is really interesting and kind of fun because that would really give you like a very stable.
It does. I still
back.
see. Okay, you could talk me into that. At first, my knee-jerk reaction was no, but you could like totally, sweet talk.
But then there's also like Breece Hall's a free agent, like, and I'm sure the Jets might tag him, but like the Chiefs have shown interest in that, and so it's like they want to get a running back. Javonte Williams, if the Cowboys don't re-sign him, could potentially come into play. There's some options out there,
and this is where like for all the fan fodder, you're like, why don't you trade? Why don't you do things? Like, who knows? Maybe the Chiefs behind closed doors. I don't know if like at an executive level, like, listen. This is probably not happening this year anyways. Let's go ahead and wait and let's get some pieces at the end, which totally fine with me. I think the bigger question is, and I want to ask you this because a lot of people are asking in many ways of the Chiefs. End of the dynasty? Do you think this is it? Like,
I don't think so. I think here's the thing. With Patrick Mahomes, you're always in the conversation. And I really do believe that. I think Patrick Mahomes is the greatest NFL quarterback currently playing this game. And when all is said and done, I'd probably venture to say he's probably one of, if not the best quarterback to ever play this game. So you can't, you should never rule out the Chiefs. And for those that are ruling out the Chiefs and saying the dynasty's over, they're probably those Chiefs haters, which I know I have been labeled as, and they're excited about like not having to deal with Patrick Mahomes. But the fact of the matter is Patrick Mahomes he's not. Yeah, he's out for the rest of the season. He will be back probably by the start of next season, and the train continues to chug forward. But I think this is also a really great opportunity for the Chiefs. Here's the problem: when you
needed
win
a reset.
games,
Yeah.
yes, they did. And when you have found the dominance that the Chiefs have found within the last 9 or 10 years, it makes it harder and harder and harder. And that's the way that the system's set up. But it not only does it make it harder and harder because now you have a later draft pick and you're trying to maneuver the free agency and you're trying to keep all these guys and spend all this money, et cetera, et cetera. It also gets harder for you to make a reasoning to move on from people. And what I really hope happens for the Chiefs, I really hope that they get rid of Matt Nagy. I think that would be.
I hope so too, man. I don't think they will though.
I don't think they will either. And I think part of the
Pisses me
problem, the question is then, well, what's a better option? And I think there are certainly arguments for better options than Matt Nagy. Go find Eric Bieniemy, bring him back in the building because your offense looked a hell of a lot better when he was there. And I know that there's a lot of PR things going on or have gone on with the past with Eric Bieniemy, but it's like there are people out there and options out there, and I can promise you, from an offensive coordinator standpoint, there is no job that it would be more sought after than going to be the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Because when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and you have the dominance and the talent that is Mahomes, when you inevitably win all these games, it makes your own personal prestige look a lot better because it's like, well, look what I did with the Chiefs. And so it's got to be a very sought after position if it were to become available.
Yeah.
And I think they should move on from Nagy because this offense has been a problem. And I don't want to blame it all on him, but I think he certainly shares a good majority of the blame for just the scheming and the lack of production.
And a lot of, when you're in a dynasty situation, you draw parallels to other dynasties. And that's, something New England was able to do was reinvent themselves. At the beginning, it was very much like defense, Tom Brady, lead us on a field goal to win it at the end. And then there's, the renaissance of like, well, let's bring in Randy Moss. Let's score like 1 billion points. And so I think this is where I don't know what's going to happen with Reed. He's getting older. I'll be interested.
And that's the other thing. And I was going to ask you that.
When is he going to retire? Because a lot of people are like, well, a lot of people are like, well, if they win another one, well, is that it? And now he comes back and you have a year like this. Like, I don't know how many years he has left in him. And I think that's where, honestly, the dynasty kind of hinges is Andy Reid. Because I think it's one of those things that, like, yes, Mahomes, but like the other side of this is the coaching staff, as we talked about, if you land in a situation that allows you to be the player you are, like, that's also the other piece. And so I don't know what they're going to do with that as far as Andy Reid staying, but I don't anticipate him leaving. But honestly, the part of me is thinking, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he also announced at the end that, like, hey, I'm retiring. That's it.
Would that put the dynasty in more question for you? If
Reid were to retire? I think when you say quote unquote dynasty, is like you're going to string, 3 Super Bowls together. And that ultimately, that would for sure. As long as Reid and Mahomes are together, I'm not throwing dirt on it quite yet. Like, yes, they're not going to make the postseason, but people forget that the Patriots went 10 years in between Super Bowl wins, and we still look at that as one dynasty. And it's like, okay, if they get 10 years in between Super Bowls, then very clearly, as long as the head coach and quarterback are there, it's still alive. So I think it's one of those dominoes to fall is what kind of ends it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say one more spin zone thing was, there was a graphic, I don't know if you saw that was going around, that said that Tom Brady never took a snap when his team was mathematically eliminated from the postseason. Mahomes won't either now. So that stat still stays alive.
One last question about this Chiefs team, and I want to go back to Andy Reid for just a moment. Let's say hypothetically, Andy Reid retires at the end of the season. If you could pluck any head coach to go then be the head coach for the Chiefs, who's on that list for you? And obviously there's McVay. That was who I was going to say too. McVay. That's it. Beginning and end. That's the only coach that I think would make sense to come in. He was my number one that I would have chosen as well. Like what about Kyle Shanahan? Would he make that list?
Potentially. I wouldn't be excited, but yeah.
I mean, would you rather have Kyle Shanahan or Aaron Glenn? Like, there's certainly worse options out there than Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Matthew Cahan, he left a comment in here, said, yeah, McVay going to leave beautiful Los Angeles for Kansas City. Look, this is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Mr. Matthew. This is not realistic, but if there was
You're a Chicago fan. What are you talking about? Ben Johnson picked his head coaching spot based off of weather. Please,
we're Bears fans, so we can't use that as ammunition.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's talk about the Bills Patriots. So the Bills win this game 35-31. Alan, this really, to be quite honest with you, all of these, like, there was a lot of really good games this week. This game was probably my game of the week. The Patriots really should have won this game, but the Bills overcame a huge 21-point deficit in the second half. And, another games where James Cook was heavily involved. He had over 100 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. And as I think the tea leaves have read most of the season, is when James Cook is involved, the Bills traditionally win these games. And that's what happened here. And I thought the Bills were out of it. The Patriots really should have won this game. I mean, that deficit that I just mentioned was a huge thing that I really did not see coming. I'm like 21-0. The Patriots are crushing it. But this really brings into question now, the AFC East in general is really just it's an anomaly. It is very confusing, and I want to see if you might be able to help me move through this, because the Patriots and the Bills are in the same division. For anybody that does not know what the AFC East entails for their teams, the Patriots are number 1. They're currently sitting at 11-3, and the Bills are sitting in number 2 in the AFC East at 10-4. The Patriots' next 3 games are the Ravens, Jets, and Dolphins. And the Bills' next 3 games are the Browns, Eagles, and Jets. Do the Bills jump up to number 1 in the AFC East? Do you see it happening?
No, I was looking at this. I think the Patriots, these are all very, very, very winnable games. I don't think the Ravens are very scary. Obviously, the Jets are the Jets and the Dolphins are the Dolphins. I think if you were to put a bet on it right now, I would still take the Patriots to win this division, even given all that, mainly because of who's in front of them. I think the Bills, that game that they had at home against the Patriots is going to come back to haunt them, because that was it, because they needed to win that one. This was a good one to win, but that was definitely the one. This game was just crazy. The Bills outscoring the Patriots 28-7 in the second half when TreVeyon Henderson has like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I felt like anytime you looked up at highlights, it was just TreVeyon running down the sideline and
destroying. Welcome into the NFL, my friend.
Yeah, and the Bills, there was a point in the game too where I think Josh Allen had like 40 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, and I was like, that's a very like this year's Bills thing, where it's like, it's just kind of, they weren't sexy, and it was definitely James Cook. This is not throwing shade on Josh Allen, but this is definitely like, if they didn't have James Cook, this team would be flirting with not even being in the playoffs, in my opinion, because they struggle to score at times. They are just not very dynamic, and they don't have the weapons, and they just have Cook and his ability to like crease them and get into the hole, get skinny, and then, break off these long runs is what is carrying this Bills team. I think honestly, that's what probably makes them most dangerous, is because they're not having to rely on Josh Allen. Like, if I'm an AFC team looking at them in the playoffs, I'm like, shit, my first inclination is I got to figure out how we control Josh Allen. But now I have 2 very, very dominant weapons on that offense.
Yeah. The problem is they just don't have any, kind of like what you alluded to, is they don't have a lot of pass catchers. They don't have a lot of like scary pass catchers. And that doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of them, but they're not like, they don't scare a defense.
And Shakir to me should be like, the more like, I love the way he plays. Like, to me, he should be. And it's just not clicking, but that's the one that I was like probably most excited to see this year have like more of a breakout, was Khalil Shakir. And he's just kind of there. He makes some plays here and there, but it's still the tight ends. Can Josh Allen hit the tight end in the flat on a rollout? Can Josh Allen hit the tight end on a corner route? And then can James Cook run
for 100 yards?
That's their offense. There's literally like 3 plays that they run that crease defenses, and that's it.
Well, and it's not, like the Bills don't know that this is a problem for them, because they've been trying to find something like a wide receiver. Like, they did it with Amari Cooper last year, and they traded for him, and it was like, oh damn, they got their guy. And then Amari Cooper he was a little too old, and his time had come. But like, they know that they need wide receiver help. They got Joshua Palmer this offseason, who was usable. I'm not going to say he was a great wide receiver, but he was certainly usable when he was with the Chargers, and like, that hasn't really paid off. And so they just have a bunch of guys out there aside from Josh Allen and James Cook, and they're still finding a way to get it done. Do you think that, who would you say, obviously that you've already kind of showed what you think is going to happen in the AFC East, who do you think is the better team? And I know they just played, and I know the Bills won, right? But that doesn't mean they're, in your mind, they're the better team.
I mean, the first half Patriots look like one of the best teams in football. I think to me, that's what's their inability to put two halves together was kind of crazy, and it's funny because CBS had put up a graphic like the first half point differential and the second half point differential for both those teams. It's like both of their sweet spots. They're both the antithesis of each other.
Yeah.
And I think the first half Patriots to me look like the better team, but that's not when you win the games. And if I've got to pick a team and who I trust, it's definitely going to be Josh Allen in this Bills team in the fourth quarter, because you basically have two running backs, one of which it comes equipped with a cannon. And it's like, that's how you're going to win these games in the fourth quarter moving forward. And so I think if you're a Bills fan, like, I think buckle up, because I think this is how your playoff games are going to go, is you're going to get down in the first half. You're going to look like you're going to lose. And then James Cook and Josh Allen are going to come, save the day in the second half of all these games. And I think that's how it's going to play out. And I think if Josh Allen if they can get some more of these wide receivers involved, which is a big if, because he definitely loves Kincaid and Knox, is if he can get one of these wide receivers to kind of take the top off the defense, I think this is the best team by far.
In the AFC, or just between these two teams?
In this division, and I would say they're probably the second best team in the AFC behind the Broncos at this point. And mainly the Broncos, just because that defense seems all worldly.
It does. It really does. Which we will get to. Yeah, I think the Bills. I have the Bills as a better team than the Patriots. But as I've said before, we're watching the beginning of a dynasty with the Patriots. I really do believe it. And Drake May is looking incredible. He is certainly in the MVP conversation, and he should be. So I think what we're seeing this year is definitely the start of a dynasty for this Patriots organization, where we start looking at them like we have the Ravens and the Bengals and the Bills and the Chiefs over these last few years. I think that's where this Patriots organization is headed towards in my mind. And I might be early to that because I know that their schedule is probably a little bit more favorable this year, but they're playing really good football, and it's not like they're a stacked roster. They still have things that they need to figure out from a roster construction standpoint, and they're getting it done. So I see a dynasty on the horizon once again with this Patriots team, which doesn't excite me, but I think that's where we're headed.
Right.
So,
right.
Commanders, Giants. Commanders win this one 29-21. I don't really have a lot to add to this game other than the Commanders did announce today that they are going to bench Jaden Daniels for the rest of the season, which they
should have done that
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, I love Jackson Dart, but this Giants team is it's the Giants right now.
I have a friend that is a Commanders, former Redskins fan. Has been his family is basically their whole life. And he texted this weekend. He was just more like when they were winning, he was like, "I'm annoyed we're winning." He's like, I'd rather just lose at this point. Like, why are we winning? And I think that pretty much just sums up the game. It's just two teams that really aren't playing for anything other than like draft position at this point,
which is important.
Kind of, yeah, so it's like, we were just talking about that fantasy-wise before, me trying to figure out how I get a better draft pick this year. And I mean, that's it. There's nothing more to really chat about this game other than there's just two teams that probably their fan bases are like, I'd rather would have lost that game. That's pretty much my summary.
Yep, and as a Cardinals fan, I understand that sentiment quite a bit. Another team who lost and should have lost and is probably excited to lose was the Raiders. They got their ass kicked by the Eagles, 31-0. The Eagles get their first shutout game since 2018, and they hold the Raiders to a total of 75 offensive yards. Not surprised. The Raiders are hot garbage. The Eagles have problems this year, but I think everybody and their mom expected the Eagles to win this game. And welcome back Dallas Goedert. He had 2 touchdowns with a missed chance for a third touchdown. So anybody who started him in fantasy this week it was a good week for tight ends, for some tight ends, I guess. Him and Kyle Pitts, they certainly had some resurgence. The Raiders are the worst team in the NFL. I think I don't. Would you agree with that, or would you say there's a team that's worse?
By far. I mean, they've had games like this, whether it was the Eagles or the Chiefs or other teams, where they basically did nothing the whole game. And I think, in my opinion, they're by far the worst team.
Do you think they're worse this year or last year?
This year.
Which is
wild.
Freaking mind blowing.
They're bottom. I guess in totality, sure, but their bottomed out games are awful. Like when they suck,
they're
suck.
terrible.
They're awful. Like it's not even like, well, we lost, but we were. It was like, no, you just were barely there.
Which before the season started, I was like actually kind of excited for this Raiders offense. They got Geno Smith, and I was like, okay, that's an upgrade from Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Like they got Genty, which Matthew Cahan, one of our team members here on Leather Brains, he had said when they drafted Genty that was a very irresponsible pick, and you would have thought like everybody was not super excited about Genty, but they were like, that's a dumb take. Like Genty's a generational running back, and MK's rebuttal was they have so many needs. Like their offensive line, very clearly, as we're seeing, is one of the worst. And it was just an irresponsible pick because usually teams don't need to grab a running back that early because they need so many other things. And that running back, a generational running back, is a luxury pick where it's like you take it, like kind of like the Chiefs, where it's like if they were to take Jeremiah Love, he's a generational running back kind of guy, and it would make sense for the Chiefs because they already have a lot of foundational pieces in place. The Raiders do not, and so. With the Raiders being the worst team in the NFL, which you and I are in agreement there, they're going to probably most likely have the number 1 overall pick. Will they draft Heisman-winning quarterback Mendoza to helm the future of the Raiders in your way too early prediction? Like, do you think that would make sense?
I am not sold on Mendoza as being like the savior. I think he's had one decent year with Indiana, and I think he more won the Heisman because of the year Indiana had, less than the year he necessarily had statistically. He doesn't strike me as somebody that's going to come in and just be like all worldly. Is he good?
You think he's an upgrade over Geno Smith at this point?
I don't know. Honestly, that's a hot take too, because I know he's like the Heisman. I'm not sold on any of the quarterbacks in this class. And a lot of the mock drafts right now are reading out that like the Raiders are probably going to trade with the Jets to get out of that, because I think the Jets really like Mendoza, and I think the Raiders are probably more than happy to trade out of that spot and then take Dante Moore out of Oregon, which is probably more of a project. He's got a lot of upside, but not necessarily anything that's come to fruition. So if I'm the Raiders, maybe you do that, but I just don't think a quarterback's solving your problems at all in this draft. Like that's going to be I know we'll talk about the draft more as it gets closer, but this draft is like not it for quarterbacks, in my opinion. There's nothing there that screams.
And it wasn't last year either, by the way. Like,
what's funny is, okay, we should do this in an episode because I think this is more the state of college athletics and college football with these NIL deals and players transferring all the time. Listen, Patrick Mahomes Jr., Dylan Raiola just announced that he's transferring.
He did.
From Nebraska, which we call him Fatrick because he can't move. And so he's transferring. But basically you just have all these quarterbacks that just don't have like a lot of runway, and they don't have a lot of goodwill built up, and you don't know. And so I think quarterbacks get riskier and riskier and riskier. I just don't think that Mendoza is going to like come in and solve the Raiders problem. I think if you draft him, you're like, cool, but it's not anything you like before. You're still stuck with all your problems. And I don't think Mendoza or Dante Moore solve that.
So Matthew Cahan left a comment here on YouTube. He says, I think it's fine to take Mendoza at the 1, but if they have to trade a future first to move up, that's where it becomes incredibly risky. And I agree. And I asked this question intentionally on purpose because my follow-up question to all of this conversation is, should the Raiders move on from Pete Carroll and clean house and get a different coaching staff?
I don't know. You didn't leave him with a good deck of cards to play with.
No.
So I don't know how you make that. I guess whatever decision you make right now, if you make a big decision like that, is going to be with like not a lot of information, in my opinion. You're just kind of like firing from the hip again. Yeah,
but I think it's the right move to move on from him. Like, just like you said, the Raiders team last year was way better, or maybe not way better, but better than where they are this year. And they were playing with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew all season. And with you
have Genty, you have Brock Bowers, you have pieces that are very sexy on offense, and you still can't do anything. Yeah,
you can't do it. And I mean, Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator for the Raiders, he's getting paid was getting paid almost double what every other offensive coordinator was getting paid in the NFL for this. And a part of that is Pete Carroll's fault because he hired him, but Pete Carroll also went and got his guy in Geno Smith. That's not working. And I can't, what's the head coach before Pete Carroll? Antonio
Pierce.
Pierce, thank you. The team was playing better with Pierce than they are with Pete Carroll. And the problem that I see here is they signed Pete Carroll at the beginning of the year to a 3-year deal. Pete Carroll's old as hell. He's like 77. Yeah. It's like, you're going to play this man until he's 80, and what are you building? Because by the time that the Raiders are even potentially in the conversation to be able to like be a frisky team, Pete Carroll's going to be dust.
When you lay it that way, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense then. If you're like thinking that forward, for sure. I think my biggest question is, does this hurt Tom Brady's GOAT conversation? Because since he's obviously not a very good front office person, like, I don't know. People are asking, not me. People
No,
are.
you wouldn't ask that. No, you wouldn't ask that at all. I think that would be the right thing to do. Is you get rid of your coaching staff, bring in whomever they decide to be their new head coach before you draft Mendoza. Because like I've said this before, and I especially with somebody like Jackson Dart, where it's like, I think the Giants are an interesting landing spot for a head coach, and it would be, out of all the vacancies that are going to transpire this offseason, I think the Giants are kind of a fun one. But now you have a quarterback who doesn't have his head coach that drafted him. And that to me is like, well, now how do you go about that? And obviously, if you're going to take the head coaching job, you're looking at your quarterbacks and saying, like, can I work with this guy? Does he have the talent I'm looking for? Does he fit the scheme I want to run, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you hire somebody and then you let them make that decision from the draft perspective and be like, well, I like this guy over this guy, and this is what I want to build around, and these are why.
You want to set those foundations. Yeah, I guess if you're thinking it that way and you want to move on eventually anyways, you might as well. Yeah, I agree.
You might as well. Because this season was just disgusting. And last thing on the Raiders, do they move on from Crosby? Should they move on from Crosby?
I thought they should have traded him last year. I thought while they were doing all of this, they should have moved on from him and like try to deal him. Like, there's a lot of teams that would love to have his services, and now you just I think they should.
His talent is being wasted away on the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, like, you'd love to have him, but it's like, what, you're hurting yourself. It's just like it's just like the stock market. You don't want to sell when everything's low. Like, he was high, you sell it, you're rebuilding, you're forward thinking. Now it's like, I think you're going to get less for him now than you would have last year, and not because he's any different. You lost a year of service. That's just how it works. Yeah.
That's
time. You should have done it.
Father time is prevalent in all of this, so they should have. The Broncos beat the Packers 34-26, and I came to this realization when I was watching this game. I think Bo Nix listens to the show. I know we have a couple NFL players that do tune in, and I think Bo Nix may have gotten a recommendation to tune into Leatherbrains, because he showed up in a big way in this game. He had arguably the best game of his entire career. He threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against a very formidable Packers defense. Now, it is worth noting, of course, that Michael Parsons, he did tear his ACL, and this sucks for Packers fans. It really does. Like, all Packers fans that I've talked to were super excited to have Mike on the team, and I mean, it's freaking Michael Parsons. What really sucks, and same thing with Patrick Mahomes, like, whenever you have a really high impact player like go out with injury, it genuinely just sucks for the game of football. And I don't like the Packers. I'm not a Packers fan. I actually typically actively root against them because I don't like them. But I also don't root for injury, and it sucks to see any impact player go down like this. Like, it's like, fuck, man. Like, it makes the product just not as good on the field. So it sucks for them to do that. But while we're talking about the Packers, they're still in it. They're sitting just inside of the playoff picture currently at number 7. Do you see them in or out of this thing? Because the NFC North is no joke, and their last 3 games are the Bears, the Ravens, and the Vikings. Do you think the Packers are going to the playoffs this year, Alan?
Yeah, I think they're going to go 2-3 in those and sneak in. That's my opinion. They're going to 2 out of 3. They're going to win 2 of those 3. And they're going to sneak in. Like, that's how I see this playing out for the Packers. I think it just sucks when you lose Parsons. Bears, obviously. But it just sucks. It just sucks you don't have Parsons. That just blows. That just takes away your entire defensive game plan. They're just limping in now at this point.
Yeah, and that does suck. Do you think the Packers are fraudulent?
I wish Love was more consistent.
Okay, that's where my mind was at as well. It's like
I wish he.
I don't see the
he should be. Yeah. He should be more consistent. That's my problem. Is Jacobs did his thing this game. The running game did this thing their game. Honestly, what it came down to me was very obviously the Packers were like, we're going to shut down the running game. We're not going to let you run, and they didn't. And they were like, we're going to see if Bo Nix can beat us, and he did. I think that's what the NFL was wondering. Can Bo Nix go win a game? And this was very obvious he can. So now what do you do with this Broncos team?
Well, and that was going to be my next question is, are they Super Bowl contenders? Are they pretenders? Are they frisky with Super Bowl upside? Like, where do you see this Broncos team? Because I have had and still have qualms with them, but I genuinely am struggling to really, like, with the Jaguars, I feel pretty comfortable and confident saying I believe that they're frauds. The Broncos, I think they have fraudulent aspects of them. Obviously, as we have mentioned earlier in the show, like, this Broncos defense is really the heart of this team and has carried them through a lot of victories, but I don't know. I don't know where I put them at.
Yeah, that's risky. I think they're one of the top 2 teams in the AFC. It's them or the Bills. I think when the Bills are playing really well, they're still up there. You have Josh Allen, you're still up there. I guess my ceiling and floor for this Broncos team is I could see them getting bounced in the first game they play in the playoffs, and then I could see them going all the way to the Super Bowl. So I don't know. Then that's
where I'm at too.
I could see it both ways still with them, because this game the defense was okay, but the offense really carried them, and I think that's what good teams do, like one side or the other. It's just we haven't seen the ugly side of football where it's like there could be a game when all these things don't come to fruition, and it's when does that show up for them? Because there's been a lot of great teams that have great seasons, have great years, and then it's like, well, fuck, that flaw that we were wondering would ever show up did show up in the worst way. And now I think if you're a Broncos realist, is you really hope that none of that shows up. You really hope that, because there was drives this Broncos team had where you're like, I'm not even sure they know how to play offense, but then there's drives you're like, oh, okay, there they are. Like that is the offensive side of football. So I guess their matchups in the playoffs are going to really dictate this for the Broncos. They need to have a very middling offense come play them in Denver for them to continue to win on. Like, that's my opinion. Because if they get Josh Allen, I think in the playoffs, it's not going to end well for them.
That's going to be the tricky part. And that's what I've struggled with all season as well, as I talked about Trevor Lawrence and the inconsistencies that I've seen from him. Same thing with Bo Nix, where like he's been largely absent for 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter, it's the Bo Nix miracle, and he comes in and gets it done and they get the win. But I hadn't seen like him really play a great game. But then I see a game like this against a formidable Packers team, and I'm just like, maybe he's got it.
I think what's going to happen, I think how this plays, because the playoffs are wild. And I know KN just said it in the next one. I think it's going to be a team that can come up and play, that can, if you can hold this Broncos offense down, because that's what's going to happen. There's going to be games, majority of the games that we've seen this year from the Broncos they're not going to wow you with offense. They're just not. And I know Charlie really loves Bo Nix, and he's shown up in big ways. But this offense isn't what's going to win them the game. It's the defense. So if they can run into a team that can play keep away, running the ball, and hold this Broncos defense down, or this offense down, that's all you really need to do against the Broncos, because you're not going to score a ton against the defense. But if you can just keep the ball away from the offense, and so they don't get a chance to heat up and warm up, then that's going to seal the deal. And so it'll be interesting to see how this team responds when it comes to playoffs. But they are very obviously the top 2. But again, this AFC is just, I know people don't like it, but it's weak. It's just not very. It is very good. It's just not very good football coming out of the AFC this year. That's just bottom line. And you can hate it or think we're homers or whatever, or haters, but it's just, that's the way it is.
No, I'm in the NFC, and I agree with you completely. Matthew Cahan over on YouTube, he says, I think low-key Texans are the team to beat them. And honestly, I think that's kind of an interesting take, and I don't disagree with that, because that Texans defensive line gets pressure at a very great rate, and that's where the Broncos struggle. And I do think the Texans offense is better than the Broncos offense, and now it becomes a battle of the defenses. I would love to see that play out, because it would be kind of like a chess match, I think. So I don't hate that take. My other game of the week as a pseudo Lions fan, this was just an awesome game. Like it was the Rams-Lions. The Rams won this game 41-34. Another afternoon game. These were all awesome. I genuinely, I love when the Rams and the Lions get to play together. I love when they play together, because just like that, the quarterback rivalry that neither quarterback asked for, but Matthew Stafford got traded to the Rams from the Lions, and they did a quarterback swap.
It's also a very appealing jersey combination to the eyes.
It is. It's beautiful.
It looks good on the field.
It does. But I love when these two teams get to play together, and I like both these quarterbacks. Like it was a great fit for both organizations to do that trade, which I think oftentimes you don't really get to see that in the NFL, where it's like clearly this person won this trade or this person won this trade. But I think I don't think it was obviously the Rams did win a Super Bowl. I was
going to say that's still going to be the thing, but it was more even than not.
Correct. So I don't hate the trade. In Stafford, I mean, he threw for another 3 touchdowns in this one. I got to ask you, is Stafford currently still your leading MVP candidate or should... Okay.
He should still be. Yeah. I thought for a moment there what Drake May was doing in the first half of that Bills Patriots game where he was running in touchdowns. I was like, oh, if he can salt this thing away, like there's definitely an argument for him to be the MVP. But I think it's still going to be Stafford. I think it's going to end up being Stafford. He's still, what is he at right now total? Like let's get a quick
touchdown
update from him because he threw another couple.
Like
so he's 30, at 39.
I'm going to guess 30. Oh, I was going to guess 35.
He's at 39. 39 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
With 3 games left.
And he's about to go over 4,000. So he'll probably be sitting like 4,500-ish with 45 touchdowns, ish. So, I mean, that's got to be your MVP, especially if they do that, he puts up those numbers, like that's going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, and that's going to be your MVP without a doubt.
Let's say I have the Rams as my Super Bowl favorite. I think I've shown my hand on that already. Let's say they win the Super Bowl, but they still have the Falcons pick, which is projected to be a top 10 pick.
So fucking funny.
It's hilarious. And I've had this conversation with some friends about the future of the Rams, and I've seen like some, even on like CBS and ESPN, I've seen, and it's way too early for mock drafts because we're still seeing how things shake out and how these players, do from a college perspective. Do you think Stafford retires after this year?
If I were him, I would.
I don't think
like for a legacy, because I'd just be like, I don't know how much money he's making, but if they get the top pick and he's got all these weapons, like Devontae got hurt. I don't know what the status was on Devontae.
Yes, I don't know
what happened with him.
I watched it live, and I don't know where he's currently at health wise, but I'm guessing he's going to be out for a couple weeks. He's had, I think it was a hamstring injury earlier in the year. It did, and Stafford threw him a go ball. He was going to beat the DBs, and then he literally mid route started hobbling and then fell over, and
hamstring.
It sucked. Yeah, so I imagine he's going to be out at least for the next few weeks.
I would sit him until the playoffs. There's no need to play him. You can get the job done with Puka and Williams. Like there's no need.
Well, and Puka got hurt in this one too, and he came back. But
I think he's okay. But
I think he's got probably some bruised vertebrae looking at what happened to him.
Yeah.
But he should be fine. So
let's replay this. They win the Super Bowl this year.
Win the Super Bowl
this year.
Matthew Stafford wins MVP.
What do you do? So
if
now,
I'm Matthew Stafford or the Rams?
Yeah. And no, because I'm just talking through it out loud. Because what will the Falcons pick be? Because they'll probably get something juicy. We're like,
It's right now it's projected 10, and it's probably, if the Falcons continue to lose, even earlier. And so I've seen like some people say maybe they get a quarterback and let in the event that even Matt Stafford comes back for the next year or 2 years, like this quarterback can sit behind him, learn from Matt Stafford, develop in the Sean McVay system. I don't think they do that. I think they just say let's
keep going.
Let's keep going. Yeah. Like let's go get an offensive lineman or
get another D lineman or get another linebacker or just completely just keep beefing that up. Like let's just go do this again. Like.
And I think it's hard to argue. That's
how the conversation goes with Stafford. Because if I'm Stafford, I'm sitting there like, we're going to draft a quarterback so he can learn behind you. Fuck off. I'm retiring. You don't care. I don't care. But if they go and be like, all right, we're going to beef up our defensive line, like, or we're going to give you another offensive lineman to, keep this thing humming. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, like let's keep.
Because you got to protect him. Like that. That's the thing with Matthew Stafford is he's not going to run over anybody.
Decisions always to make with the NFL team. You're either going to pressure the quarterback to give your offense more chances, or you're going to protect your quarterback to give your offense more chances. Like that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Then that's it, depending upon who's available. Like you take an offensive lineman and you protect your quarterback because he is getting older, and you lose Matthew Stafford. I think the season plummets, like your season plummets rather quickly. So,
it's over.
Enough on the Rams. Let's talk about the Lions quickly. This game was also very, very impactful for the Lions. They're currently sitting at the third seed, third in their division in the NFC North, which I did not have in my bingo card. I thought they were still one of the best teams in the NFC. The Bears and the Packers are both ahead of them in the standings. And are the Lions just out of it in your mind? Like, are they done for the season? They're on the bubble currently. They're sitting in the 8th position, so they're right on the fringe. And the next 3 games they have are Steelers, Vikings, and Bears. Do you think, looking in your crystal ball, that the Lions are going to go to the playoffs this year? Do you think it might be done for them?
if they can't figure out a way to run the football, that's going to be it. Because their inability to run the football, which has been their calling card for these last few years, like, yes, Goff's great. Yes, it's great to have Amon-Ra, but what you really want to be able to do is just turn around and hand the ball off, because that is the easiest, quote unquote, completion to have, is you're just handing it off, right? Like the ball transfers here to there. That's it. You run, and their inability to do that, especially late in this game, was what really cost them. And I think having Gibbs and Montgomery only go for 70 yards, you're averaging 3.5 a carry. That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it now. That's not going to do it in the playoffs. Like, even if they make it, it's going to be, it's going to be really hard for them, because they feel one-dimensional at times, and they have to run the ball. I would say they're probably still going to make the playoffs. I would say put them in, but they gotta figure out how to run the ball over these last few weeks. And I don't know how you figure something like that out this late into the season, but their inability to run is a problem.
Last question on these Lions team is, now that the season is almost over and then we're going to go to the postseason, did Ben Johnson play more of a role than maybe we had perhaps thought he did? Because, and I bring this up, obviously you just mentioned the offense, their inability to run the ball. They did lose Frank Ragnow, and then he came back for like 2 minutes and hung out in the locker room, and then got kicked out of the facilities because he had a grade 3 sprain sitting on his couch. Did Ben Johnson, did he play more of a part than maybe we had originally anticipated? Because we saw even Dan Campbell took over the play calling for the offensive side of the ball. So there, to me, just as an outsider looking in through the window here, looks like there's a little bit of disarray with this offensive play calling and the scheming, and maybe Ben Johnson, and obviously, you look at what the Bears are doing right now. Like, I think this is a testament to them losing a really great offensive mind.
Yeah, I think we thought so. The end of that, because as we were talking about what's the forecast of this Lions team this year, and I know you had said it, like, well, you don't have Ben Johnson, we're going to see. We don't have Ben Johnson, we're going to see. And that was largely what we thought was going to propel the Bears, and you're kind of seeing that play out in real time. So I think kind of answered your own question. It is Ben Johnson. I think he helped keep things creative, and I think he kept things interesting for this offense, to where defenses can't key in on any one thing. You're gonna get something from somewhere, we just don't know where. And I think the Lions, as we've seen, since Dan Campbell even took over the play calling duties, I think he saw it, like, we're predictable as fuck. And I think that's where they're at right now. And I think they're able to catch lightning in the bottle. I think they just need to get better creativity from this offense, because I think the defense is definitely keying in on certain players and able to take things away, which you couldn't do before.
Sure. Week 18, the Bears and Lions play against each other. Who wins that game?
You already know my answer. Why are you asking me that?
It's Bears.
Yeah.
Okay.
Duh.
I believe so. I believe so as well. I think, we're Bears podcast.
I think the Bears are going to, I think the Bears are just going to win that one anyways. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun.
And that is probably, depending upon how the Packers do, that's probably the nail in the coffin for them not to go to the playoffs.
Could be. Yeah, this will be interesting. This is going to be a fun last few weeks. There's a lot of, as much as we think things are cemented and you're the 1 seed and you're this and you're out and you're in, like, these last 3 weeks, you're going to see a lot of shuffling, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see another big team drop out where you're like, oh shit, I guess they're not in either. Here we go.
Especially if it's in the AFC, because we're coming to the end.
Anything can happen. I think the Colts are out as much as we'll get to that game, but I think you're going to get some teams that like slide up where you're like, oh, now you're in? Nice. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We got to give a shout out to our sponsor, that being Burger King. This episode is powered by Burger King, because when the NFL gives you pain, Burger King gives you flame-grilled comfort. Missed field goals, torn ACLs, fraud watch teams exposed on national television, whatever just happened to your franchise, you're going to need food. And not salad food, Alan. We're talking real food. We are talking flame-grilled Whoppers, chicken sandwiches that don't lie to you, and fries that show up when it matters most, unlike some teams we watched this week. So, when your Sunday goes off the rails, remember, you can't fix your team, but you can fix yourself some dinner by going to Burger King. Have it your way, baby, and appreciate Burger King for keeping the lights on. Let's keep the show rolling, baby. Let's talk about the Saints and the Panthers. Saints win this game 20-17. And I know that this isn't a sexy game. I know that, like, I agree with you completely. This is not a game I'm super excited to talk about. But one of the biggest storylines in this game, of course, was the Irish hero, Charlie Smith, the kicker for the Saints. It was his second
Irish
NFL
hero.
game ever, and he had a clutch game-winning 47-yard field goal. He came from Ireland, of course. He's Irish, but he came from like the transfer program, like the international transfer program, and he didn't even know what that was. And then like I don't know how he got involved in it, but that's how he landed with the Saints. And while we're talking about the Saints, Tyler Shuck continues to not look bad.
I know we're trending
272 for one touchdown.
We're trending.
I really think the Saints are going to roll with him next year. Like that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, they kind of have to.
Yeah, they're still in cap space purgatory from like 8 years ago.
I don't even know if they get to like have that decision necessarily, but I think it's nice to know you can. I think the story for me is Scotty's still his take on Bryce Young. If people are expecting things from him and they expect him to win, and he's supposed to, he folds like a lawn chair, versus if nobody cares, nobody's expecting anything, then he plays really well. And this is again another notch for that, where he was kind of there. They didn't really do anything. It's the Saints. You expect to kind of win this game. The Panthers in the driver's seat. You take one more step forward. Is the division in doubt? And I think we talked about the Bucs earlier. This game right here is why I think the Bucs still are just fine winning the division, because
and I'm glad you brought that up. The Panthers in this game, they really beat themselves. They had 11 penalties for a season high of yards for penalties. One of which, Tyler Shuck, I don't know if you saw it, he got absolutely freaking destroyed on a quarterback sneak. I thought he died on the field. I thought he was dead. Which it then puts into question. I mean, if he did die on the field, then the Saints would have to figure out another quarterback situation. But the Panthers losing this game really makes the NFC South a very tight division. The Saints are out, so you don't need to split. But they by winning this game, they now made it even more interesting for the South, because the Panthers should be leading the South and they should have beat the Saints, and they didn't. And I think you're right. Like Scotty might have been onto something, where when expectations for him are expected, he's going to fail. But when you don't have any expectations, he's going to. I mean, this Panthers team beat the Rams a couple weeks ago.
They beat the Packers.
Yeah, and you're like, what the hell?
And they lose to the Saints.
I want to revisit this Bryce Young thing for the future of the Panthers. We had this conversation, I want to say as early as last week, and I'd asked you, do you think that they should continue to roll with Bryce Young, or he's got 1 year left on his contract next year, and then they're going to have to make a decision?
Yeah, I think you just let it play out. The Panthers should just play this out at this point. I don't think he's the answer. You put a gun to my head, no Bryce Young.
Okay. But I think a lot of this is going to come into play as far as, does Bryce Young get them in the position that they're in this year, where they're kind of like don't have the draft capital to then re-roll? And I think that could be in play.
Yeah, he's the Mike Tomlin of quarterbacks. That's what Bryce Young is. He will do just enough to where you're in the mix, but not enough that you can do anything else with your team.
Yeah. I still don't think he's the right answer. It's the expectations. I think Scotty's right. When you have no expectations of him, he comes out and looks like he's an all-pro, and then when you think, okay, this should be an easy layup, it's not. So I really don't know where to put him at. But let's move over to the Old Man Rivers legacy game.
Yeah, baby.
Phillip Rivers. I was watching this game. I was so freaking stoked for this game. The Seahawks did win this game 18-16. I was most tuned into this game because I wanted to see Grandpa Rivers in action. And Alan, he did throw a touchdown. I don't know if you got to see it, but man, does he just not have a lot of zip on the ball at this point? I think he could throw it maybe 30 yards is like as far as his arm is allowing him to go. But you know what? I got to hand it to him. He came off the couch at 44 years old. He is legitimately a grandfather. And they almost beat a very good Seattle team. Like, the Seattle team is not a slouch team. So for them to come in, and I wasn't really necessarily because of Rivers. Like, he didn't come out and wasn't like carry the team to victory. Obviously, they did lose. But they almost beat the Seahawks. So, and they would have lost this game had it not been for a last-minute 56-yard field goal by Jason Myers. So that was they could have lost this game.
Yeah, that last 2 minutes, the Colts kicked a field goal too. I thought that was it. I thought the Colts were going to walk away with it.
So did I. I was like,
here we go.
They got it.
This is going to be sick. Rivers leads them to a win in their first one, but again, the Seahawks kind of squeaked one out. I thought this was cool. I think the biggest thing for me for Rivers was the fact that his kids were like, "Do you think you can still do it?" And they were asking him, and he's like, yeah, I think so. I mean, that's just hilarious to me that like a 44-year-old that was coaching high school football, probably not working out.
Did you see they had like a watch party? Like,
yeah,
the
like
whole
that's
high school did. So cool.
That is so funny to me. Like the funny thing is like these conversations, how they come to fruition. Like who in the Colts front office was like, remember when we had Phillip Rivers that one time? And everybody's like,
I know who it was. It was the head coach, Shane Steichen, because he is he was there with the Chargers with.
Yeah, it's the easiest thing to implement is somebody that already knows. And I had texted you because I was like, I didn't realize their high school runs the exact same offense. Yeah. So he's literally coaching the offense in high school that him and Steichen ran, that he's now going to just go run that offense in the NFL. It was a super cool story. I don't think anybody expected the Colts to win. I think the fact that they almost win is more like positive than anything. And the Seahawks just kind of like, oh, you almost lost to Rivers, who literally wasn't playing.
Came off the couch.
He literally wasn't playing last week, and you almost lost this. That would have been an all-timer for the Seahawks if they would have lost that. That would have sucked. That would have been very Sam Darnold of them to do.
Yeah, it would have. I don't know. I'm firmly rooting for the Colts just because Phillip Rivers is there and I love him. And like one of the things I thought was really, really cool was like you mentioned his kids, and he was like, "What do I have to lose?" He's and he at one of his pressers he was talking about like telling his wife he was going to go do this or whatever, and he's like, my wife thinks I'm crazy. He goes, I was just telling my high schoolers the other day, like I miss getting hit, and he's like, what do I have to lose? He's like, let's just go out there and see what happens. And it's like, what a great spot to be in where like there's no expectation for you at all. Like nobody's expecting you to do anything. So just go out and get to play the game that you love, maybe even for just one more game, just off the couch. Like what a cool freaking thing to be able to do. So, but this, I have something interesting regarding the Colts that I kind of want to touch on here. So the Colts, they're currently just like the Lions. They're right on that bubble. They're at the 8th spot and currently vying for that playoff spot. They announced today that Anthony Richardson, he's coming off IR, and they're going to see where he's at, but he isn't now officially going to potentially be able to play. So in my mind, Alan, this could kind of go two ways. So and the thing is we probably won't know which way this goes because they can mask this. But where I'm getting at with this is the future of Anthony Richardson is this is going to be very telling of that. And they could hide behind him being injured and not ready, and we will never know the truth. But if they decide, let's just say we're tuned in and we're a fly on the wall, and they decide that they're going to move forward with Phillip Rivers because he's the better option for this offense than Anthony Richardson, that's all we need to know about what they think about Anthony Richardson.
You said
like,
I was going to say
that's all we need to know. But and the interesting thing too is for anybody who was paying attention to this Colts team this offseason, the Colts all offseason were saying they wouldn't announce who their starting quarterback was going to be, and they were saying it's going to be a quarterback battle between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, and all you were hearing was it's really close, and we still haven't made a determination. So if that is true, and you couldn't figure out between Jones and Richardson, I think after the first few weeks, it was very clear, and it was like, why didn't you just say Daniel Jones out of the gate? Like, he's looking great. He's playing really good football. So now you're going to look like a liar because either Anthony Richardson, you were just trying to,
I think that's what it was.
Out into the. I think it has to be what it was, and you didn't,
because we talked about the as a trade asset. Like, you can't say he sucks and then correct. Like, anybody want him? You got to at least give some hope that like, oh, he's right there. He could win this thing. He might be our starter.
So hear me out. This is where I'm going with this. They don't play Anthony Richardson the rest of the year. Even though they could potentially sneak into the playoffs, they don't play Anthony Richardson because they don't want to show anybody that he's not as talented as what everybody thought he was. And obviously we had kind of seen that in snippets with the Colts when he was starting with them. But they don't want to put the product out on the field because they want to sell him this offseason. So I think there's a potential, and obviously we're going to see how this plays out. I think there's a potential we're going to see Phillip Rivers the rest of the season because they don't want to show who Anthony Richardson is any more than they already have.
Right, and Phillip Rivers didn't come off the couch to go sit on the bench.
Correct.
If you're coming in, you're playing. He's like, if I'm coming in, I'm throwing this thing. We're doing it.
So I think that's what's going to happen is we're going to see Phillip Rivers come out for the rest of the season. But I got to ask you, I mean, the Colts, as I said, they're sitting right outside the fringe. They were like leading the playoff conversation until inevitably Daniel Jones went down. Their next 3 games are 49ers, Jaguars, and Texans, 2 of which are divisional games for the Colts. to close out the season here. And both the Jaguars and the Texans are currently ahead of the Colts. If you're looking, grab your crystal ball, look into it for a second, Alan. Do the Colts make a wild card appearance this season?
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either.
I don't think they do. I think they drop out. I think even when Daniel Jones was in, they were already trending to being out because it was like people were starting to figure out and diagnose how to beat the Colts. I think now with this remaining, I think the 49ers, Texans, those are all losses, man.
I think they are.
I think they skid out. That's it. And I love Phillip Rivers, but I just think
me too.
But
I think it is what it is. Unfortunately. Yeah. All right, let's pivot over 49ers Titans. Who cares? 49ers win this game 37-24. Is there anything you even want to discuss?
No, I mean, I think I put some notes here. It's like Brock Purdy threw for 3 touchdowns. It was just like the 49ers are 10-4, and it feels like the most quiet 10-4 record in the NFL. Like people wrote them off. They started, they're shuffling the quarterback around. They weren't sure who's coming in. They injuries on defense, and they're still in the spot where the division's still not out of the question for them. There's still a possibility. Some things have to shake out their way, like unlikely, but there's still a possibility to win it. It's just, Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, and it's like here we are coming down to the wire with all 3 of these teams, just like we all predicted at the beginning of the season. That all 3 of these teams are going to be vying for this division at the very end. I think that was the only thing that I took away from this game itself. No, it's just more the 49ers. I think people aren't really talking about the 49ers. Yeah, it's kind of like this team can win a game or 2 in the playoffs. They're good enough to do it. It's just people have kind of written them off because of all the injuries they had. So it'll be really interesting, as this moves forward. That was the only thing but they took care of business for the most part. I thought Cam Ward just like we talked about before, Cam Ward is still Cam Ward. I think he is still promising. He's just not on a very good team. So I'll be interested to see what he's like moving forward. But he looked decent in this game again.
They got to find a head coach. I mean, that's step one, I think.
Yeah.
You mentioned 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks. Which rank them for me? Rank those 3 teams. They're all.
I think put a gun in my head. I'm gonna go Rams, Niners, Seahawks. Even though the Seahawks record-wise are there, I still think the Rams in a pressure game right now, or the 49ers in a pressure game right now would beat the Seahawks. And obviously like the Rams over all 3.
I think I agree with you. I have Rams are at the top. I want to say personnel-wise, the Seahawks over the 49ers, but I think they get outcoached. And so I'm going to put the 49ers above the Seahawks as well, is where I have it currently at. But would it surprise me if the Seahawks beat the 49ers? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I think they get
10-4 though, man, with all the injuries. I mean, for all the teams we talk about injuries being their downfall. At least on the offensive side.
That's every year for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is like, I don't know what's in the water there, but every year half their team is injured and they still are just like, man, next man up.
And somehow their O-line stays together uninjured. Like they don't, but everybody else does.
It's because they don't have to block because they just throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey in the flats and just let him go to work. True. Let's talk about the J.J. McCarthy coming out game, baby. 34-26. Vikings beat the Cowboys. This game, another awesome game. And, I was joking about J.J. McCarthy, the coming out game, but really, honestly, this is the best game of his career. I mean, which isn't saying a lot because he, for all intents and purposes, is a rookie. And he did throw an interception to start the game. But then he came out and threw for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns and then rushed the ball in. And so he didn't let the interception get to him, and he came out and played a really good game. And you could put an asterisk there. I'm fine with that. This game paired with last week's game against the Commanders, for me, as I said last week when the Vikings won this game, this is a confidence-building game for J.J. McCarthy. Correct. And that was what the Commanders was last week. Their defense is not great. This Cowboys defense, as we know, is not good either. But this is exactly what a young quarterback needs. This is his first season playing in the NFL, and he dealt with the injuries and then the adversity of, is he even going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings next year, which is still in question and should be in question. But these are the type of games that he needs because the Vikings need to determine, is he our guy for the future, or do we need to pivot and do something else? And, head coach Kevin O'Connell has already stated that they will be looking to add a veteran quarterback this offseason to compete for the starting role, and I still think that they should. But you need to see tape on J.J. McCarthy to say, do we have it with this guy or do we not? And I think that's something where oftentimes we say we can see it as fans, but it's really hard to do that. Really almost until if we had a full 2 years worth of tape on JJ McCarthy, I would feel comfortable making a determination saying you need to move on or not. But the reality is we don't have that, and we haven't really got to see a lot of him, and the Vikings haven't either. So for me, and I'm not trying to glaze JJ McCarthy because there are a lot of issues with this young man, but I just was really happy to see him come out and come back from that interception, put some really good film on tape, and showcase that he potentially has the ability to do it.
Yeah, same. I pretty much wrote this game off. I was like, well, Cowboys are going to probably win this one.
So did I.
It's going to be an uninteresting game. And then I checked the score and I was like, oh, never mind. I'm going to tune in because now this game is teetering. And I still don't know necessarily how the Cowboys are losing these. Like they win some games. Very weird to me.
The Cowboys.
Yeah. For JJ, I'm still out on JJ, like as a long-term prospect.
Fair.
Like I don't think he's going to be a long-term answer. I think he can lightning in a bottle some games here. And I'm happy to eat crow on this if he ends up being like a tremendous starter and can do it. I still just don't see it week over week or like leading this franchise. Like there's weapons on offense. They can move the ball. Their defense is good enough. And it's just like, I agree. Like they should be it'd be irresponsible not to bring in a veteran quarterback to at least try for this starting role in the offseason, because I don't think JJ is the answer. I think he's okay, but I don't think he's like going to propel.
80-20 is where I'm at. Like 80% out, 20% in.
That's
and
fair.
that barometer has moved. I was like 98% out.
Yeah, last week and this week. I'm the same. I would say I'm the same.
But really that 20%, I would say 5% of it is JJ McCarthy, and the 15% that I'm buying in on is still Kevin O'Connell. And can he figure out how to scheme this quarterback for the scheme of offense that he wants to run? And so I'm still largely putting all my chips in the Kevin O'Connell space, not necessarily the JJ McCarthy space. But that's a part of this. Is it's a partnership, and can you figure out how to get the best out of this young man, and is he going to be something that you can use to tool your offense the way you want it to work? And historically, Kevin O'Connell has done that, not with rookies. Traditionally, it has been some older vets that kind of understand the game, but that's where I'm at. It's 80-20, 80% out on JJ McCarthy. I'll give him a 20% leeway. And you mentioned you don't know how the Cowboys continue to lose, some of these games. I figured it out in this one specifically. I think Jerry Jones, he is a notorious owner of dick pics of his players. He must have finally gotten some skin flute picks from Brandon Aubrey, because Brandon Aubrey, who arguably is one of the best kickers in the NFL, he doesn't miss. He missed a 51 and a 59-yarder in this one. And in turn, this really caused the Cowboys to end their playoff aspirations. Yeah, so it's Jerry Jones's fault. He got dick pics of Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah, he's got a collection in there.
He does.
I'd like to take a gander at it at some point just to see who he's
got. Take a little peek. This was a must-win for the Cowboys. Do you think he trades them like Pokemon cards with other owners? He's like, I'll send you a Joe Burrow for a Micah Parsons.
That's all the physical is. The players aren't actually there. They just kind of swap dick pics. Like, that's pretty good. Yeah. Bring him over. We'd like to try him out sometime.
See if we can get him in the locker room, and I can take my own personal picks.
Yeah, I think this was it for the Cowboys. I think, again, they were teetering, and this is pretty much it. JJ McCarthy knocked them out of the playoffs. That's a wild thing to say out loud.
Yeah,
but that's what happened to the Cowboys.
He's the Cowboy Killer, is what I'm labeling him as.
Shout out
JJ McCarthy, the Cowboy Killer. Let's move over to our Pab Ass Bitch of the Week award. So for any children who are listening, turn us off for like 5 minutes, because there's some vulgar things that are said on this one. So we have to preface by stating that. But our Pab Ass Bitch of the Week award, I've got mine. Alan, do you want me to go first, or would you like to go first for your award? Okay,
go for it.
My Pab Ass Bitch of the Week are people who are rolling out this. There's a trend going on right now. It's the naked Christmas tree. So there's no ornaments. Stupid. There is no lights. It is a bare ass Christmas tree. If you are one of those people listening in the Brainiac community, you are a Pab Ass Bitch of the Week. That means pussy ass bitch of the week. You get the award from me for that. If you're rolling out bare Christmas trees, that is the laziest thing I have ever heard. Like,
That's
if
the
you're going to take the
dumbest thing I've
time,
ever heard.
it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's lazy, and it's like, I just don't want to string up the lights, or I don't want to put the ornaments on.
Why not just bring a bush in? Why even?
That's
have a
what you're
tree?
doing. It's just a big ass bush.
Just bring a bush. Here's our
Santa's
Christmas
not delivering
bush.
you presents.
No.
He's like, I can't see anything. I don't know where to put these presents at. I'm going back
you
up
just-
the fucking chimney.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm happy I haven't encountered any one of these people in my real life, because this would be really hard.
Well,
for
we
me
don't
not to go
associate
off.
ourselves with PABs. So, like,
That's true.
typically when we give out these awards, it hasn't
That's
happened
true.
yet, but usually when we give out the PAB awards, it's because we don't,
What an awful. thing
we're
to do.
like-minded, and we don't surround ourselves with PABs.
Santa would be rolling in his grave. He found out we were.
If he
putting-
was dead, but
If
he
he was
never
dead.
dies.
He never does. No lights. That's bad.
No
My
lights.
that's a
Dumb.
good pab ass bitch of the week. My pab ass bitch of the week is ACL injuries, or ACLs in general. Don't even know why we need that ligament. All it does is tear and cause people pain at this point. This week especially, you have Mahomes and Parsons going down. We've had, obviously throughout the years. It just sucks when people go down like that. I don't understand. Should we maybe have surgery for this ahead of time to maybe like equip people's ACLs with strength? I don't know if there's a problem that we need to fix, but ACLs,
Iron Man, the suits in football.
yeah, just around
That
their
might be a
knees,
solution.
just around their
Yeah.
knees, so they can't.
Linemen already
buckle.
do that.
They should do. Everybody should just have that. Just slow the game down a little bit. Everybody has knee braces on. Nobody can actually run as fast as they want because you have to protect your ACLs. But that's my pab ass bitch of the week. That particular ligament, just the one.
So I was just ACLs in general. If anybody has an ACL, you're a PAB.
Yes.
I was with a group of friends and we were watching the Chiefs game, among other games, and we watched it happen live. And all of us were just like, "That's his ACL." Like you could, as soon as it happened, we're like, "He's done for the season. It's his ACL." And I'm sitting next to one of my buddies, and he is torn his ACL, and he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "It sucks." And so we were kind of making light of him tearing his ACL, and he goes, "Yeah, my surgeon that did my ACL repair was also Matt Ryan's ACL surgeon." And he's like, "So little sick flex for you guys." And we're like, "Okay." And then I'm sitting there and I go, "Didn't you tear your ACL a second time after that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, sounds like Matt Ryan's ACL guy is not the best. Not the best guy.
Yeah, Mahomes or Parsons, pour one out. Like that sucks. Those are to the top of their craft going out early. So ACLs. Pab ass bitch.
ACLs, pab ass bitch. All right, Monday Night Football preview, and we're going to get out of here. We have the Dolphins versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 3-point favorites at Pittsburgh. Over under in this game is 42.5 points. And I also have to state Jaylen Warren is questionable tonight. He is down with the sickness. So I haven't seen if he's good to go or not yet because we've been recording. But prior to the recording, he was down with the sickness. So I got to ask, who wins this game, Alan?
Well, to continue my narrative of one said Planet Fitness manager keeping his job as head coach, I have to take the Dolphins winning this because I got to see this through. I got to see this play out. They need to keep winning so he can try to keep his job. That's just how it's got to go. So I'm going to take the Dolphins. Got to stick with my guns on that one. Even though before we kicked off, part of that, I don't want Devon A-Chain to go off. So that can't happen.
Yes.
While they win.
Neither
so
do
I need two things. I need two things to kind of play out. So we're rooting for certain scenarios for this game.
That's fair. I also can't have Jaden Waddle do well. So really, honestly, I'm going to take the Steelers
on my radar.
because I have to root for the Steelers in this game just for fantasy purposes. But I also think that genuinely, I think the Steelers will win this game. I love the narrative, and I don't care who wins this game, to be quite honest with you. Honestly, it would be hilarious if the Dolphins won because then as your Planet Fitness manager would potentially be able to keep his head coaching gig with the Dolphins. So I love that, and I'm rooting for that. But the Dolphins just historically, they don't play well in cold environments, and the Steelers are a cold environment, and the Steelers are favorites. And I think the Steelers are going to win this one, unfortunately. So I'm rooting for the Dolphins as long as like Tua just runs everything in.
Yeah,
and that's all
I agree. I agree with you, but I got to root for the storyline. I understand. I get it. That's all the time we have, Alan. It has been a pleasure doing this show with you. And for any of the Brainiacs who have tuned in halfway through the show, tuned in at the very end, have been here the whole time,
join us in the conversation. Go to YouTube, go to X. We are live everywhere. Leave your comments, join the conversation. We love talking with everybody and want you guys to be a part of the show. So come leave your comments. We'll throw them up here. We'll discuss what you have to say, and we'd love for you guys to be a part of this. And if you listen on a podcast platform, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget about us, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're everywhere. We're anywhere that you are listening to podcasts. So go hit the subscribe button. We genuinely appreciate the support. And thank you to Burger King for keeping the lights on. We also appreciate your sponsorship.
Shout out BK.
It's time to go, Alan. I love you, brother. It was fun doing this. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.